There comes a moment in every destiny when your heart whispers, "There is more, far more than what I'm seeing right now." You feel it deep in your spirit, an unshakable pull, a holy fire that tells you your story is not meant to end in lack, struggle, or closed doors. You were created for overflow. You were designed for abundance. And heaven has already assigned help on your journey. What most people never realize is that breakthrough doesn't start in the bank account. It starts in the unseen realm. Every major shift in a person's life begins when they finally understand that God has placed supernatural provision on standby, waiting to be commanded, activated, and released. Angelic provision is real, it is powerful, and it responds to your words, your faith, and your authority. When your voice aligns with heaven, angels don't walk, they run. They carry resources, opportunities, connections, and ideas that can transform your financial future in a moment. But they only move when you speak with boldness. You don't beg for breakthrough, you command what God has already promised. You don't chase money, you call it by divine authority. You don't fear the future, you declare it. And when you speak, angels take their positions. They organize what looks impossible. They open doors no human can shut. They bring favor that money can't buy and wisdom that produces wealth. Your $1 million breakthrough is not a dream. It is a decree away. Heaven is leaning in. Angels are listening. And your next words carry the power to rewrite your story forever. Lift your voice, activate your authority, command your provision. Your breakthrough is already prepared. Now call it into your life. Breakthrough is never born from the circumstances you see. It is born from the revelation you carry about yourself. The moment you begin to understand that you are worth far more than your present situation, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing your life as a collection of limitations and start seeing it as a canvas waiting for divine intervention. Many people stay stuck, not because they lack opportunity, but because they have silently agreed with the ceilings placed over them. But when your heart awakens to the truth that you were made with purpose, intention, and supernatural value, the atmosphere around you begins to respond. You stop shrinking to fit environments that were never meant to contain you. You stop apologizing for wanting more, dreaming bigger, and expecting the impossible. Believing you are worth more is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is agreement with heaven's blueprint for your life. And as this truth sinks in, your voice changes, your posture shifts, and your expectations rise. You begin to call things forth with authority because you finally know you are authorized. Every major turnaround starts the moment you recognize that your worth is not tied to where you stand, but to who created you. When you believe you are worth more, the chains of past disappointment begin to fall away. Many hearts walk around bruised by memories of failure, rejection, or long seasons where nothing seemed to move. Those memories try to whisper that this is all life will ever be, but the revelation of worth breaks that cycle. It lifts you above the weight of what didn't work and frees you from agreeing with discouragement. Suddenly, you stop measuring your future by the pain of your past. You begin to understand that hardship didn't come to define you, it came to refine you. And in that refinement, strength was created, wisdom was born, and resilience was developed. People who believe they are unworthy settle for small dreams, small environments, and small lives. But when worth rises inside you, you expand, your spirit grows, your vision stretches. You begin to recognize that you were never meant to survive life, you were meant to shape it. Believing in your worth doesn't erase your history, but it transforms how you interpret it. You stop seeing broken seasons as proof of inadequacy and start seeing them as proof that even in weakness, you were being prepared for more. Believing you're worth more changes how you speak about yourself and your future. Words that once carried fear, doubt, or hesitation begin to shift into words of authority, clarity, and divine confidence. You no longer speak from a posture of, "I hope something changes," but from a posture of, "Something must change because I was created for more." This internal transformation becomes the fuel that accelerates breakthrough. Heaven responds to identity. When you speak from the revelation of who you truly are, angels move, opportunities align, and spiritual resistance loses its grip. Your language becomes a doorway that invites provision, favor, and divine strategy. Even your prayers take on new dimensions. They stop sounding like survival pleas and start sounding like royal decrees. You begin to address situations not as a victim of circumstance, but as someone born with spiritual authority. When your worth increases, your voice strengthens. You begin to prophesy your future instead of repeating your fears. And every time you speak from worth, you plant seeds of breakthrough in the atmosphere around you. The world does not shift when you hope for change. Believing you're worth more also transforms the environments you tolerate. There are places, relationships, and mindsets that no longer feel comfortable once you recognize your true value. You begin to sense when a room is too small for your calling. You begin to realize when conversations drain your spirit instead of building it. You start recognizing doors meant to be closed and paths meant to be walked away from. People who understand their worth stop staying in atmospheres that suffocate their growth. They stop accepting connections that dishonor their purpose. They stop participating in cycles that keep them spiritually or financially stuck. Worth becomes a compass, one that points you toward places aligned with your destiny. And as you shift environments, you make room for new voices, new opportunities, and new levels of favor. When you believe in your worth, you naturally position yourself where breakthrough can find you. You stop hiding, you stop settling, you stop dimming your light so others feel comfortable. You rise, because rising becomes the only option for someone who finally knows they were never created to live beneath their spiritual potential. The moment you believe you're worth more than where you stand, your actions begin to reflect that belief. You make decisions that agree with your future, not your fears. You step into responsibilities that once intimidated you. You pursue ideas you used to bury. Your faith becomes active, not passive. Even the way you handle opposition changes. Instead of folding, you stand firm. Instead of retreating, you move forward with clarity and conviction. Instead of retreating, you move forward with clarity and you become someone who expects divine provision not as a distant miracle, but as a natural part of your identity. Breakthrough becomes inevitable because you're no longer waiting for life to validate you. You're walking in the worth heaven already gave you. Worth fuels persistence. Worth ignites courage. Worth attracts opportunities that once felt unreachable. When you believe you're valuable, you no longer sabotage open doors or question whether you belong in rooms of influence. You step into them with grace, faith, and boldness, and every step forward becomes a declaration that you were designed for greatness, far beyond your current surroundings. Your life begins to elevate from the inside out, because breakthrough always starts with identity. Your words carry a weight far heavier than most people ever recognize. Long before anything appears in your hands, it must first be released from your mouth. Heaven is full of provision, favor, opportunities, breakthroughs, and divine resources waiting to be activated. But access is granted through the words you speak. When your voice aligns with faith, you turn your mouth into a master key that opens doors no human could ever unlock. Many live as though the heavens are closed, not because God is withholding anything, but because their words have never matched the promises written over their lives. Every declaration you speak becomes a transaction in the Spirit. The moment you declare, "I am provided for, heaven backs me," the atmosphere begins to shift. The resources you need are summoned. Angels respond. Breakthroughs begin forming. Words are not noise. They are authority in motion. They shape your reality, frame your future, and determine the level of access you walk in. When you finally understand that your voice carries the power to call things forth, you stop speaking casually and start speaking intentionally. Your breakthrough is not waiting on time. It is waiting on your tongue. Your words unlock heaven because they reveal what you truly believe. Faith is not proven by emotion, it is proven by language. What you speak in moments of pressure reveals the condition of your heart. When life feels tight and circumstances look impossible, heaven listens closely. Words of fear close doors. Words of faith open them. That's why breakthrough often begins when you start correcting your vocabulary. Instead of saying nothing ever works out for me, you declare everything is working together for my good. Instead of saying I don't know how I'll make it, you declare provision is already on the way. These are not empty affirmations. These are spiritual laws. Heaven responds to faithful speech the same way darkness responds to light. Immediately. Words are seeds, and seeds always produce after their kind. Speak fear and you harvest limitation. Speak faith and you harvest miracles. Everything that God releases on earth is connected to a voice willing to agree with Him. When your words carry faith, heaven recognizes them as a signal, an invitation, a decree that authorizes divine movement in your life. Change starts the moment your mouth no longer reflects your situation, but your revelation. Your words function like keys because they unlock different dimensions of divine provision. Some doors require gratitude, others respond to bold declarations. Some breakthroughs require whispered surrender, while others demand a commanding voice that refuses to bow to circumstance. Heaven is not moved by silence, heaven is moved by alignment. And alignment is expressed through speech. When you declare healing, the treasury of heaven releases restoration. When you declare wisdom, divine strategy flows. When you declare favor, doors begin to open in places your feet haven't even stepped yet. The treasury of heaven is unlimited. There is no shortage, no delay, no lack. Only waiting for your words to activate withdrawals. You are not begging for something far away. You are pulling down what is already yours. Every promise of abundance, provision, protection, and increase is stored and sealed until your voice unlocks it. This is why even small shifts in speech can create massive shifts in reality. A single declaration can break chains, dismantle lies, and open streams of ideas, connections, and resources you never imagined. Your words don't just describe your life, they direct it. They give heaven permission to move. The treasury of heaven unlocks when your words carry authority instead of hesitation. Many speak as though they are hoping for mercy rather than walking in divine rights. But sons and daughters do not beg, they legislate. They speak as those who know they have legal access to supernatural provision. When you speak with authority, you are not trying to convince heaven. You are announcing what heaven has already established. Authority is not volume, it is certainty. It is the tone that comes from knowing who you are and who backs you. Your words become powerful when you speak from identity, not insecurity. You begin to command instead of question, declare instead of doubt, call forth instead of complain. Complaint shuts doors, command opens them. Hesitation delays breakthrough, certainty accelerates it. When your voice rises with divine assurance, the treasury responds because heaven recognizes the sound of faith. Angels are dispatched when they hear certainty. Provision is released when they hear alignment. Miracles awaken when they hear conviction. Your authority becomes the currency that unlocks the vault of divine supply, giving you access to everything heaven has already prepared for your journey. The moment you understand that your words carry supernatural unlocking power, you begin to speak with intention. You guard your tongue with the same seriousness as someone holding a key to a priceless vault. You stop wasting words on doubt, fear, and self-sabotage. Instead, your speech becomes strategic. You begin each day by declaring what you want heaven to release. You speak life over your finances, your family, your purpose, your health, your opportunities. You release words that align with your destiny, not your discouragement, and slowly your life begins to reflect the language you've chosen. Opportunities align with your declarations. Divine connections appear. Creative ideas flow with clarity. Provision arrives in ways you could never orchestrate. You realize that the treasury of heaven was never silent. Your voice simply hadn't unlocked it yet. Now, every word becomes a key, every declaration a doorway, every faith-filled sentence a spiritual transaction. And the more you speak with alignment, the faster the shift happens. You are not waiting on breakthrough. Breakthrough is waiting on the command of your mouth. Angels respond to the sound of faith, not the echoes of fear. Heaven's army was never assigned to reinforce panic. They were commissioned to reinforce authority. When you speak from fear, your voice carries uncertainty, desperation, and the belief that the situation is stronger than you. But when you speak from faith, your words carry alignment with heaven's power, confidence in divine backing, and the certainty that nothing is impossible. Angels recognize that sound. It is a frequency of heaven, the language of trust. Fear may bring tears, but faith brings movement. Fear may shake your heart, but faith shakes the atmosphere. Angels are not moved by emotional distress. They are moved by spiritual authority. Your command, spoken in faith, signals to the unseen realm that you understand your position, your identity, and your right to call divine intervention into your environment. A fearful cry may reach heaven's compassion, but a faithful command activates heaven's power. When you lift your voice with boldness, angels take their positions because they move only when they hear words that agree with the promises already established over your life. When you speak with fear, you unintentionally agree with the problem, but when you speak with faith, you agree with the solution. Angels are drawn to the sound of agreement with heaven's truth. Fear says, "I don't know what to do," while faith says, "God has already made a way." Fear declares defeat, but faith declares victory even before the evidence appears. Angels do not respond to panic because panic carries confusion. And confusion is not the atmosphere of divine instruction. They move in environments where faith creates clarity. When you declare, "I am protected," angels align to shield you. When you declare provision is coming, angels begin organizing resources. When you declare, "Breakthrough belongs to me," angels start positioning opportunities. Every faith-filled command becomes a spiritual assignment. Your words give angels direction, not because you are powerful on your own, but because you are speaking from the authority God entrusted to you. A fearful cry focuses on the storm, but a faith-filled command speaks to the storm. And angels respond to the voice that believes the storm is subject to divine authority. A faith-filled command carries dominion, and dominion is what mobilizes angels. Throughout every divine encounter in Scripture and spiritual experience, angels move where authority is recognized. They respond not to emotion but to order. A command spoken with faith is not a suggestion, it is a decree. It is a statement that acknowledges heaven's laws over earthly circumstances. When you speak with conviction, you activate the realm assigned to help you. Angels operate with precision, and they require direction rooted in faith. They cannot deliver what your fear contradicts. Fear says it might not happen, which closes the door. Faith says it must happen, which opens it wide. Angels align with certainty. They move at the sound of commands that declare healing, prosperity, protection, wisdom, and deliverance. When you say, "Go before me and make the crooked places straight," angels begin adjusting situations. When you say, "Minister to my household," they begin to guard and guide. When you say, "Bring forth what belongs to me," they release what had been delayed. Faith opens their assignments. Fear cancels them. Your authority is the activation point. Angels stand ready, waiting for a voice that speaks with heaven's confidence. Fear-filled cries come from a place of uncertainty, and uncertainty clouds your spiritual authority. When you cry out in fear, your heart feels overwhelmed, but your spirit feels disconnected. Fear is loud, but it is not authoritative. It may express pain, but it does not command movement. Angels understand the difference between human emotion and spiritual authority. They are compassionate toward your struggle, but they are commissioned to respond to your command. Faithful commands are not about denying the reality of the situation. They are about declaring the superior reality of God's promise. When you speak in faith, you activate the atmosphere of divine order. Angels listen for words that carry direction. Peace be still, doors open, favor locate me, strength rise within me, provision come forth. These commands are not wishful thinking. They are legal declarations in the spiritual realm. Angels cannot move on fears instructions because fear contradicts God's truth. They move on faith because faith is heaven's language. As long as fear leads your voice, angels stand waiting. But the moment faith takes over, they rush into action. The moment you understand that angels move at the sound of faith, your entire way of speaking changes. You stop praying from panic and start praying from power. You stop crying out as though you are helpless and start speaking as someone who carries divine authority. A faith-filled command does not mean you feel strong. It means you speak from the truth that you are backed by strength greater than your own. Angels do not need your emotions, they need your instructions. They move when you speak with clarity, boldness, and confidence in the promises of God. Your voice becomes a signal that heaven recognizes, a command rooted in belief, not fear. When you say, "I call forth what is mine," angels begin gathering what belongs to you. When you say, "I send angels ahead of me," they go forth to prepare the path. When you say, "I bind every negative force," angels reinforce your authority with power. A fearful cry says, "I'm overwhelmed," but a faith-filled command says, "I am in authority," and heaven always responds to authority. Your words decide whether angels wait or move. And when faith speaks, they move without hesitation. Provision is not something you are waiting on. It is something that has already been set in motion long before you ask for it. Heaven does not react to your need. It prepares for your need. The moment a promise was spoken over your life, provision was attached to it. Every resource, every opportunity, every door, every connection, every ounce of favor you will ever need has already been released into your future. The challenge is not convincing heaven to provide. The challenge is aligning your voice with what heaven has already released. When you speak, you are not begging for something distant. You are pulling into the present what has already been authorized in the spiritual realm. Your declarations activate delivery. Your words summon what has been waiting. Provision is never late. It is often unclaimed. The gap between what has been released and what you see is filled with your confession, your consistency, and your spiritual clarity. You speak not because you're trying to make something happen, but because you're calling forth what already belongs to you. Provision isn't on the way. It is already yours, waiting for your voice to bring it into manifestation. When you understand that provision has already been released, your mindset shifts from pleading to possessing. You stop praying as though you are trying to persuade God and start praying as though you are receiving what has already been declared. Heaven does not operate on earthly timelines. Everything you need exists in the spiritual realm, prepared and ready. Your voice is what draws it into the visible world. Too many people wait for circumstances to confirm provision, but provision does not manifest because life gets easier. It manifests because your faith becomes louder. When you speak consistently, you collapse the distance between what is promised and what is visible. Every time you declare, "My provision is here," you align your atmosphere with truth. Every time you say, "I walk in overflow," you pull on what is already yours. Every time you speak abundance, favor, or breakthrough, you create a pathway for provision to appear. You are not trying to convince God to do something. He already did it. You are convincing your spirit, your environment, and the unseen realm to release what heaven has prepared. Provision responds to certainty, not hesitation. Provision that has already been released requires a voice that refuses to be silent. Speaking until you see it is not repetition out of desperation. It is reinforcement out of revelation. You speak because you know. You decree because you believe. You repeat because your words are chiseling away the resistance, the doubt, and the spiritual fog that tries to hide what is already yours. Every declaration you make pushes back the unseen barriers that attempt to delay your manifestation. Silence leaves provision dormant. Speech awakens it. Provision responds to persistence, not because heaven needs reminding, but because your spirit needs strengthening. Each time you speak, your faith grows and your vision sharpens. You begin to see beyond the natural into the spiritual truth that abundance is closer than it appears. Speaking until you see it is how you anchor your spirit in divine certainty. It is how you refuse to bow to what you currently see. It is how you command alignment in the natural realm. Your voice becomes the bridge between the unseen provision and the visible breakthrough. Provision is not a future event. It is a present reality waiting for your commands to bring it into sight. Many people feel as though provision is delayed, but delay is often nothing more than a misalignment between belief and speech. Provision cannot appear in an atmosphere filled with contradictory words. You cannot declare lack and expect abundance. You cannot speak fear and expect favor. You cannot repeat doubt and expect doors to open. Heaven's provision requires a sound that matches heaven's truth. When your words align with the promise materializes. When your declarations align with the outcome manifests. Provision is like a seed already planted. It only needs water, and your words are the water. When you speak life, you nourish what has already been released. When you speak abundance, you activate the growth. When you speak expectation, you accelerate the manifestation. The more consistently you speak, the more you train your environment to respond. Your circumstances start bending toward your declarations. Opportunities begin finding you. Answers begin unfolding. The things assigned to your name begin moving in your direction. Provision isn't slow. It simply follows the voice that speaks it into visibility. Once your speech matches what heaven has already released, manifestation becomes inevitable. Speaking until you see it means refusing to give your voice to anything that contradicts what has already been released for you. It means waking up every day and declaring what belongs to you regardless of what your environment displays. It means holding fast to your confession even when nothing seems to change. It means trusting that your words are building, preparing, aligning, and pulling forth what heaven has already placed in your path. Provision is attracted to consistency. Breakthrough responds to expectation. Increase gravitates toward a voice that refuses to surrender. When you speak, you release spiritual laws that begin shaping your reality. You are not waiting for evidence to believe. You are speaking because you already believe. Every declaration is a step toward manifestation. Every confession is a hammer breaking down invisible barriers. Every word is a key turning a lock in the unseen realm. You do not stop speaking because you don't see it. You speak until you do. Provision has already been released. Visibility is simply the final stage. Keep speaking, keep declaring, keep commanding, because the more you release your voice, the closer your provision comes into view. Every breakthrough you seek, every shift you prayed for, every door you've been waiting to see open, heaven has already positioned it in your path. This entire message is pointed to one unshakable truth. You are not fighting for victory. You are speaking from victory. Provision is not a distant hope. It is a finished work waiting for your voice to activate it. Angels are not idle. They are listening for the authority in your words. The treasury of heaven is not locked. It responds to your declarations. You are not abandoned. You are divinely supported by forces greater than anything standing against you. When you believe you're worth more than where you stand, your spirit rises to a higher place. When you choose faith over fear, the atmosphere begins to shift. When you speak with authority, heaven moves in your favor. When you declare what belongs to you, angels step into position. And when you keep speaking, consistent, unwavering, bold, what has already been released begins to manifest in ways that surpass your understanding. This journey is not about hoping that something might happen. It is about awakening to the truth that everything God intended for you is already prepared. Your role is to speak, to declare, to call forth, and to stand in unwavering confidence until your eyes witness what heaven has already finished. Breakthrough belongs to those who refuse to stay silent. Provision manifests for those who refuse to stop speaking. So lift your voice with faith. Command your future. Align your words with promise, and walk boldly into the abundance already assigned to your name. Thank you for listening. May God bless you, strengthen you, and surround you with divine favor always.